Over 38,000 Iranian-designed drones were launched against Ukraine in 2025 alone. Every single one of them began as a concept in Tehran, became a product at a Russian factory in Tatarstan, and landed on apartment buildings, power stations, and hospitals from Kharkiv to Kyiv, funded partly in gold bars, assembled partly by coerced African women lured with false job offers, and guided by Chinese microelectronics that Western export controls were specifically designed to prevent. This is not an arms deal. It is an industrial supply chain for attrition war. And right now, Russia is preparing to export the entire capability to North Korea. To understand how we arrived here, you have to understand what Iran built and why. The Shahed drone program did not begin as a weapon of mass deployment. It began as an asymmetric answer to a fundamental strategic problem. Iran could not compete with American air power, Israeli air power, or Gulf state air power in a conventional confrontation. What it could do was flood the battlefield with cheap, disposable, one-way aircraft that cost almost nothing to build, required minimal training to operate, and forced the enemy to burn expensive interceptors, Patriots costing $4 to $6 million each, AMRAAMs at $500,000. To shoot down a drone whose total production cost in 2025 was approximately $70,000. The ratio is what matters. Every Shahed that forces the launch of a Patriot missile wins Iran's cost equation by a factor of roughly 60 to 1. Iran did not invent drone warfare, but it industrialized the economics of drone warfare in a way no state had done before. The transfer to Russia began in autumn 2022, months after the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Russia's missile production could not keep pace with battlefield consumption. Ukrainian air defenses were intercepting a high percentage of incoming Russian missiles, and the expenditure rate was outstripping manufacturing. Iran had the Shahed 136. It was not the most sophisticated weapon in the world. It was subsonic, powered by what Ukrainian soldiers described as a motorbike engine, roughly the size of a jet ski, and carrying a warhead light enough to be delivered by a single-engine airframe. Its first arrivals in Ukraine were easily detected by their distinctive lawnmower drone, but they were available in unlimited quantities, and they were cheap. In early 2023, Russia and Iran signed a $1.75 billion deal, structured around domestic Russian production of the Shahed, licensed from Tehran. The Alabuga Special Economic Zone, located 600 miles east of Moscow in Tatarstan, became the manufacturing hub. By mid-2025, according to Ukraine's Defense Intelligence Directorate, Alabuga was producing more than 5,500 Shahed-type drones per month, ahead of schedule, below projected cost. The 6,000-unit contract target was met approximately a year early. Russia had launched more than 1,000 Shahed drones per week by March 2025, up from roughly 200 per week in September 2024. Ukraine logged 5,000 launched in September 2025 alone. The weapon evolved. Russia's engineers took Iran's airframe and began rebuilding it. The original motorbike engine was replaced in upgraded variants with a compact turbojet, tripling the drone's speed and compressing the intercept window from minutes to seconds. Warhead sizes increased. Communication systems were upgraded with software-defined radios to resist jamming. Batteries extended range. Decoy variants, the Gerbera, were added specifically to saturate radar systems and exhaust intercept capacity without carrying explosives at all. In December 2025, photographs emerged of a Russian Shahed variant fitted with a Soviet R-60 short-range air-to-air missile, transforming a suicide drone into a rudimentary airborne interceptor. Russia added tungsten balls to some warheads. It laced components with toxic agents to maximize harm to civilians and first responders. The Middle East Forum's December 2025 analysis confirmed the speed improvement alone makes the upgraded Shahed a categorically different threat from what Iran originally exported. Faster, harder to jam, harder to intercept, and cheaper per unit than any air defense missile in Ukraine's inventory. But while Russia upgraded the weapon, it quietly cut Iran out of the production loop. Western intelligence sources told CNN in August 2025 that Alabuga had localized approximately 90% of the Shahed 136 production process. The aluminum bars come in as raw material. The engines are manufactured on site. The microelectronics are fabricated locally. The carbon fiber fuselages are produced within the factory complex. The deal that Iran signed, intended to generate revenue, technology transfer, and strategic leverage, had instead produced a situation where Russia now manufactures Iran's most significant military export independently, has improved it beyond Tehran's original specifications, and no longer needs Iranian supply for the drone program. A Russian diplomatic delegation had paid Iran at least $104 million in gold bars, according to a May 2025 report from the Adapt Institute, but promised deliveries of Su-35 fighter jets, S-400 air defense systems, and other major military hardware were delayed, partially delivered, or effectively pending. Russia had absorbed Iran's drone technology, weaponized it at industrial scale, and was repositioning itself as the dominant producer of the platform, possibly including exports back to a depleted Iran. The relationship that Tehran believed was a strategic partnership had functioned in practice as an extraction operation. Here is the dimension of this story that has been almost entirely absent from Western coverage. And it is the most consequential development in the global proliferation landscape since North Korea's first nuclear test. According to Ukraine's Defense Intelligence Directorate Commander Kirilo Budanov, Russia has now agreed to transfer Shahed drone production capability, the full manufacturing process, to North Korea. The technology that Iran invented, that Russia industrialized, that burned Ukraine's cities for 3 years, is now being replicated on the Korean peninsula. Budanov confirmed specifically that agreements exist for North Korea to produce both the Duran-type Shahed variants and the longer-range Garpia-type drones domestically. He assessed directly that having Shaheds will give North Korea the ability to hit targets anywhere in South Korea, and potentially in huge volumes. The historical parallel that makes this terrifying is the nuclear analogy from Pakistan's AQ Khan network, which between 1989 and 2003 transferred centrifuge designs, uranium enrichment expertise, and weapons blueprints from Pakistan to North Korea, Iran, and Libya. The IAEA later described it as the most extensive nuclear proliferation network ever discovered. What is now occurring with drone production technology follows an identical structural logic. One state develops a weapons capability, transfers it to a second state, which transfers it to a third. The silent beneficiary of every stage of this chain is China, whose microelectronics are embedded in every variant of the Shahed drone at every stage of production, and whose dual-use technology exports to Russia have been the critical enabler of scaling production from hundreds to thousands of units monthly. CSIS confirmed in its February 2026 analysis that Chinese components, including key electronics, remain essential to Russian Shahed production. China does not build the drones, it builds the drone's brains, and profits from a weapon it will never be sanctioned for producing. The global consequences extend far beyond Ukraine and the Korean peninsula. North Korea's KN-23 short-range ballistic missiles supplied to Russia, where approximately half of the first shipment deviated or exploded mid-flight, have since been dramatically improved through Russian technical assistance. Budanov confirmed the missiles now strike with precision that the original North Korean versions could never achieve. That accuracy improvement travels back with every demobilized North Korean soldier, every technology document, every briefing from Russian engineers. South Korea's Defense Intelligence Agency warned explicitly that deepening Russia-North Korea cooperation threatens to fundamentally disrupt the military balance on the Korean peninsula. Kim Jong-un launched North Korea's largest naval destroyer in April 2025. He tested a supersonic cruise missile with characteristics matching a nuclear-capable Russian design. A military that in 2022 was firing Soviet-era artillery at Russia's request is in 2025 receiving precision ballistic missile guidance, drone manufacturing infrastructure, and potentially submarine nuclear deterrent technology. The cost in North Korean lives: approximately 5,000 casualties confirmed by the Lowy Institute, with the real figure likely higher, is being treated in Pyongyang not as a tragedy, but as the tuition payment for the most accelerated military modernization program any state has achieved in the post-Cold War era. 3 futures branch from this supply chain. In the first, the most optimistic, Western sanctions and export controls succeed in severing China's microelectronics pipeline to Russian drone manufacturing, choking production before North Korea's own factory capability comes online. CSIS assessed in February 2026 that disrupting Chinese technology flows is essential and urgent. So far, that disruption has not materialized at scale. In the second future, North Korea begins producing Shahed-class drones in volume within 18 to 24 months, and Iran, having watched its own weapon evolve beyond its control in Russia, receives a backward transfer of the upgraded Russian variant as partial compensation for the technology it originally provided. Iran would then enter its next military confrontation with a drone that is 3 times faster than what it launched in June 2025, and that the interceptors deployed against it in June 2025 were not optimized to engage. In the third future, already partially underway in what CSIS described as the most prolific aerial threat campaign since the Blitz, the Shahed drone becomes the defining weapon system of mid-21st century warfare, proliferating not just to states but to non-state actors, just as the AK-47 did in the Cold War, not because anyone exported it deliberately to militias and insurgencies, but because the industrial template became impossible to contain. Ukraine logged 38,000 Iranian-designed drone launches against its territory in 2025. The Alabuga factory is expanding its dormitories and production lines. Russian engineers are in Pyongyang, and a $70,000 drone is still forcing $4 million interceptors off the shelf in a war that shows no sign of ending. So, what do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments below. TGN presented. Thank you for choosing us.